History happens to people, and people make history. This was something that targeted everyday people. We were not, generals. We were not a sworn enemy of anybody. These were people who were going to work, flying. We knew that families, the people that had lost a loved one that day, were going to need to have a place, have a way to remember the person that never came home from work, never came home from a flight.
So Jupiter was just a lover of life. He put his whole heart into what he did. He put his whole heart into his relationships. This is why anniversaries are hard, because I don't think that there's a day that goes by that I don't think about him, or that I don't think about what happened to him. And our lives together, and who he was, and what he meant to everyone that knew him. Jupiter was a banquet manager at Windows on the World. One thing I donated was a wine set that had a corkscrew and a wine topper in it. It was from an actual event at Windows on the World. He loved his job. He loved what he did. He was very good at it.
Well, with an event like September 11th, which is a mass homicide, a mass trauma, it's very hard not to speak in statistical terms. 2,977 people died, nearly 3,000 people. Each person who makes up part of that tally was an individual who lived a life.
We all share memories of that day. On that day is revered to us. And it's also tied to my sister Beverly. My brother-in-law is Sean Rooney, and he worked at the World Trade Center. The second plane hit his tower. And at that point, he was above the impact zone. And he called my sister again, and they said goodbye to each other. And she was on the phone when that tower collapsed.
Of all the 50 deaths in Thursday's plane crash near Buffalo, hers may stand out the most. Beverly Eckert was a September 11th widow who
She died in a plane crash in 2009. She was going to Buffalo to give a scholarship at her husband's high school. My sister's remains were found. So we have a gravesite for her. We don't have a gravesite for Sean. Artifacts become very important. And artifacts are the facts that someone lived. They are the facts that you can touch. And for Sean, he had many sides to him. He was a great chef, but he was also a weekend carpenter. His tool belt and his tools were given to the 9/11 Museum. And to me and to our family, this is a very important side of Sean Rooney. This is his building side. He loved to do this. He built things, he constructed things. It is a perfect antidote to the destruction of that day. And it doesn't seem like 20 years for sure. It doesn't seem like 20 years.
It's part of our history, it's part of our legacy, it's part of what we need to do as Americans to try to prevent this from happening in the future by remembering our past.
A lot of Americans have sort of just blanket statement, never forget 9/11, and it's easy to sort of ignore the fact that these were actual people and actual families that were affected by this. Maybe instead of saying never forget, just be a good person. Reach out to people, reach out to loved ones, not just victims of 9/11, people that you care about, people that care about you.
It's not hokey to love your neighbor. Everybody who died there, as I said, it doesn't matter what color they were or what religion they were, they all died together.
In the future, it's going to be very hard to be reductive about September 11th, about how this affected people, if our collection is there to kind of rub against reductiveness. It's these thousands of pieces of truth. Each piece is a little part of a puzzle. Having those important little pieces of truth, those palpable pieces of truth, those bridges to allow people to get engaged in the story is why we do what we do, and we'll continue to do what we do.